You ever play those mobile games where you're that circle in a vast expanse of two-dimensional hills and you make go down so it can go fast? Well, Landfall Games, the creators of Cluster Truck, decided to take that concept but make it into a third-person, blistering, cacophonic gauntlet of visual splendor, lasers and bombs and laser bombs, then gave it a grappling hook so you know it's the best game ever made. Friend? Oh, yep, that's the guy. HASTE is the quite aptly titled video game of my dreams, and it might be yours too. Seemingly straight from the subconscious desires of gamers who yearn for fast, have the naste for haste as it were, but didn't really click with the Sonic franchise, this game scratches the brain in ways that few others have managed. There's also one of the reasons I haven't really been working on videos recently. Sorry about that, I'm busy mastering my movement. Though not a perfect package, the game just came out and has already been receiving patches addressing community feedback. If the footage you've been watching tickles your gamer bones at all, the full game will give you at least $20 worth of an experience. I'm gonna bundle these together because I believe that, especially for entries in the fast type genre, the relationship between these things is the biggest factor in how a game feels. Art direction, animation, sound design, these are things that a player can't not engage with when playing a video game. I mean, people play games with the sound off, but it's a lot harder to with the display turned off. Just a little pro gamer tip from me to you. And I'm not saying, by the way, that bad graphics make gameplay worse, but rather that exceptional presentation can make gameplay feel better. They work in tandem to create the mouthfeel of the game. You know what I mean? Animation and just motion in general, honestly, do a lot of the heavy lifting here. The reason I would spend hours just running around Peach's castle as a kid is not because these polygons were nice to look at. It's because of the side flip. I love the side flip. It's just got your jump right there. Love me some side flip. It's that feeling of momentum shifting, the way that Mario leans into a slide as he changes direction. You can feel the potential energy. That's mouthfeel, which HASTE excels at, and not just because of the anime speed lines, but there are plenty of those. There is polish oozing from every orifice of this game. The relatively simple gameplay of fall down fast and land good is fun on its own. You can get that from Circle Game, but you aren't Circle Boy in a big ass, empty ass, hills ass. You're an interdimensional orphan out running and attempting to thwart the end of all that is while being actively gunned down by the mega corporation and or the government, I'm still not sure, behind the whole thing. Like, they bust out the heavy artillery for this fast lady. The animations when landing and jumping are so fluid and bouncy and cartoony, and the obstacles are so over the top and striking, it really helps add that extra spice to the feel of the game. This balance of spectacle with actual control of said spectacle is one that I haven't felt in many other speed games. I always really wanted to get into Sonic, the thesis always appealed to me, but playing the actual games never felt fully satisfying. In those moments where control is taken away from you to watch a cool thing happen instead of, doing the cool thing. I will say, if you're looking for more of a Sonic Adventure type 3D platformer, this game is not that. There's a procedurally generated track that you're getting to the end of and not platforming levels to run around. For that real Sonic type experience, I've heard really good things about Spark the Electric Jester 3. I just haven't played it yet, but who knows. Anyway, at the risk of confusing my imagery a bit, the role that sound design plays in the game's excellent mouthfeel is not to be understated either. The music gets all garbled and fucked up when you're caught in the void, different landings have different "you did it" chimes, the sound of crashing into a boss, the thunk of Zoe slamming into a cliff. And the music is overall pretty great. Not every track was created equally, but even the worst of it is no worse than just fine. And all of it serves its role as fast ambience exceedingly well. The light, funky vibe accompanied by more driving and industrial electronic shit is a perfect reflection of both the game's breakneck pace and those floatier breather moments when you accidentally grapple something too close and launch yourself straight into the air, and you just sit there admiring the beauty of the
Fortnite death wall about to consume the matter constituting your mortal body.
The art direction's nice. I have the least to say about this topic, but I hope it is evident just from the footage how pretty this game is. The character designs are all slick and interesting. I really like how the 3D models retain that, dot shading. I told you art is not my thing. The environments can be cartoony and whimsical and brutalist as fuck, but most importantly, visually clear. My brain has been poisoned by Team Fortress 2, and now when I play any other shooter, I cannot tell players from the environment. For me and my broken-ass brain, visual clarity is a constant source of anguish whenever I pick up a new game, and I hardly have problems with this one. I can usually tell through all the smoke and bombs and fucking Gliok attacks what's coming up next and where I want to land. But the real meat and potatoes of this mouthfeel extravaganza is going to be in that gameplay. $20 worth of an experience can mean different things to different people. If you're just good, the main story could potentially end up being pretty short for you. Personally, I was not very good at the game first. Oh god, wait, no, wrong, false. So I got quite a few hours out of the main story. You know, not to brag or anything, but this is a game that, if you're like me, you'll be playing through multiple times anyway. I downloaded LiveSplit because of this game. LiveSplit. What was I thinking? What was the thought process there? I have a job. This game's replayability comes not only from learning the fun movement, but also from the structure of the game around that fun movement. There are a couple layers on top of go down fast and land good to add some depth to running and dodging. You're rewarded for fast, smooth landings with energy for your ability, and you can enter a run with one of 4 to choose from. Each one augments your movement in a different way, and they all have their own playstyles, strengths, and weaknesses. Key here is that each one heavily affects and is heavily affected by your momentum. The board is really simple, but each other ability adds so much potential for skill expression, and I honestly can't tell how much of it is jank and how much of it is working perfectly as intended, but it all feels great and intuitive. And these abilities let the obstacles get even crazier, because when you can fly, you really only have your energy management to blame if you get overwhelmed. Sometimes. Personally, I think the level and obstacle generation is pretty solid and feels fair. On the later shards, it feels tough, but usually like it's my fault when I mess up. With some minor exceptions, these gaps are horrendous. It's a fine obstacle in general, but when the beginning of a fragment is a long series of chasms and you start with no energy and no items and oh, you thought that was a hill? It was actually a hole. There's just nowhere to land sometimes, so you just drift slowly into the aether. Goodbye. I'll miss you. There are 10 shards you need to complete in order to beat the game, comprised of a map of fragments, all ending in a boss encounter. The map of a shard is a randomized sequence of normal fragments, shops, healing campfires, challenge spaces, and hard fragments. You have 1 health bar instead of lives to survive on to get to the boss at the end of a shard. And yes, there are shops. It's just like Balatro. The shop is host to a wide range of items, and some of them are even good. There are effects that trigger off of collecting sparks, your landings, taking damage, close calls, running a certain distance on the ground, items with the cooldown that you can activate, passive effects, lots of different ways that you can make your build. And the items get pretty creative. My favorite combo is Blood Engine and the Impact Activated Healing Device. The former you can activate in order to damage yourself in exchange for boost, and the latter heals you whenever you take damage. Because of their low cooldowns, you can just spam Blood Engine for infinite boost. Very cool, very simple synergy. Good stuff. But, what the hell is boost? I have a couple problems with the items. Overall, I really like this aspect of the game, and it helps a lot to add replayability. But there are some things like boost that I feel like aren't explained very well. Seriously, I have beaten the game several times now, and I still don't really know what it does. Yeah, it makes you go faster, and it makes your shoes glow, but is it like grounded running speed? Does it even apply in the air? People seem to say no, but you can see in certain clips that adding boost in midair does increase your speed. So is boost just more speed? Well, no, because there's an item that just straight up adds more speed and it doesn't behave like any of the boost items. So I don't know, it's not that big a deal. I have enough of a feel for the mechanic to know that it's good and roughly how it affects gameplay, but it's still kind of vague. And the balance is all over the place. Because it's random, it makes sense to have highs and lows, but the difference between the best and the worst items is pretty huge. What exacerbates this, in my opinion, is the way that the items are tied to progression. Some of the best items in the game, like the golden necklace or plutonium coin, are both common and unlocked from the start of the game. You start off the game with a much thinner item pool and unlock more as you progress. Because of this thinner pool, you're likely to be getting a lot of these very strong commons early on, and as you complete more shards, the item pool fills out and you're seeing these super strong items less and less. And yeah, games should get harder as they go on, but this doesn't feel like that. It's a reward for progression that's making the game harder. It's purely an optics thing. It's like, congratulations, you've unlocked worsened odds. Honestly, it could be exactly the same and just not be presented as a reward, and it'd probably be fun. Personally, I would have all items available from the start, but this is an incredibly minor point, and the superficial feeling of progress is nice. Speaking of the superficial feeling of progress, the bosses. Is that segue too mean? This is getting into spoiler territories if you care about that sort of thing. I'm talking about the bosses and the story coming up. This is your warning. So there are 4 bosses and 10 shards. Now, I didn't go to college, but I think there's going to be some repeats here. The final boss only appears for the final shard, so you fight each other boss 3 times over the course of the game, each time with the fight harder than the last in some way. I didn't mind the repeated bosses. Is it a shame that there aren't more? Yeah, of course more variety would be nice. It was a little disappointing to see that every level didn't have its own unique boss, but the fights are all more or less pretty solid, and it feels like there's a significant enough difficulty increase between the repeats. The game is very simple at its core. You go fast, bob and weave. You wouldn't think there's too much to do with this, but it was such a consistent delight throughout my first playthrough, seeing all the different ways the game can push and test your ability to do this very simple thing. None of the boss fights are gimmicks. They're all damaged by literally running into them. They're all designed to test you on the thing you've been doing all game, the super fun movement. This well-named boss jumps super far away, and you gotta catch him before he jumps to the other side of the map again. Not only are you being tested on your speed, the boss begins to tamper with the environment itself. These expanding pools of damage can cut off your route, and you have to react to find a new path. Plus there's the wave. Later versions of the fight throw in these massive laser pillars on top of the normal hazards, and then your big open field is replaced with a forest of
thorny vines.
The convoy, my personal favorite, is a massive structure vehicle thing that you need to enter and run through to deal damage. Later versions up the lasers and the speed of these rotating lasered pillars, not to be confused with the Jumper's laser pillars from before. There's a lot of lasers in this game. The snake, I don't like the snake, but it is a fight focused around your movement and maneuverability. Often it's a fight against said movement and maneuverability. The way the snake roams around leaves its body as a road that you can run along. It's neat. The bosses are all chucking lasers at you the whole fight, and dodging that is fun, but what I love so much about these fights is the way that they either have an impact on or are the environment that you're running on. It feels like what you've been doing all game, but with a twist that puts these familiar skills to the test in a unique way. That's so much cooler design-wise than suddenly getting a gun or something like that. Actually, that would be a phenomenal game, and it's called Tribes, but that's not this game. It's all in the name. I actually really like the way the bosses don't directly communicate some information to the player. Going into the game blind, you don't know what's going on, you spawn into the boss level, battle begins, then you see the big-ass health bar, attack the machine. Okay, the fuck? You don't know what that means. You start seeing these unique shots clearly arcing from ground level far away, so I'll go that way, I guess. And then you see him. A later patch added big smoke trails to the bosses so that you can locate them from farther away, which was sorely necessary for the snake, but I'm not sure how I feel about the other two. It was a cool experience thinking on the fly about how to find Jumper the first time, like I had solved a problem. Convoy was similarly a little bit of a problem to solve at first. You have no idea what to expect. The last boss you just fought was Jumper. There are lasers everywhere, so you just book it. Eventually you come across this massive structure housing laser turrets, but contact doesn't damage it. You can even run on top of it, but that's a bad idea, don't do that. Running around, you'll likely notice the massive pile of sparks directing you towards the entrance, and you want to go in. There's rings and everything. Beating this mini level is how you damage the boss. You can actually cheese this boss super hard, but that's no fun. Let the speedrunners do that. And you know what? I'm not talking about the final boss. Buy the game. I will say it does feature my favorite way of a boss interacting with the environment, and there's also a very special surprise that got me pretty bad that I'm not gonna spoil, but that is the main game. Other than that, there is an endless mode, which sadly is not an actual endless track, but it is a way to just do fragment after fragment with no bosses or challenges or anything. You get to choose one of 3 random items after the first, and then every 5 fragments afterwards. It's a nice addition. There's an achievement for getting to 30 fragments, but I honestly have more fun replaying the shards themselves. I wish there were more post-game challenges. Not to say that there aren't any. In the hub world, the captain offers permanent upgrades in exchange for anti-sparks, which you earn for completing shards and endless runs. So there's a bit of an incentive to grind through that. Though here I could complain about the items again. One of his upgrades is to increase item rarity. If you do this, you'll be seeing items like golden necklaces and plutonium coins even less. There are some higher rarity items that are cool. Some of them are even pretty powerful, but a lot of them I don't even understand. Like the destroy an obstacle thing, I've never gotten to work. But also, having such strong and run-making items be so common, again, kind of feels like progression is just making you a little weaker. Coin might just be too strong to be common. Kirby Air-eyed-ass game. The game also comes with achievements to achieve. The gap in skill required to beat the game versus get some of these achievements makes me wish that there were just a couple more in between, you know what I mean? Okay, do a run with no damage, that's cool. Do shard 10 with all perfect landings, no items, and no damage. So the game includes these difficulty sliders, which do not disable achievements. Why did I mention that? It's fun to turn item cost to 0 and become God, but you can also do things like modify the damage that you take or the precision required for a perfect landing. I think it's cool to give these as an option to play around with, but I have to fight the constant temptation to cheat not only the game but myself and pry this achievement from Landfall's grip. I haven't done it yet. I'm not a criminal, but you know.
Ah, what the fuck? I'm sorry, Mr. Snake, I didn't know it was like that.
The story is there. It is serviceable as a video game plot to contextualize the gameplay. So the game opens up with this cutscene of our main character presumably being thrown into a new universe. See, this is something that happens to her sometimes. She can't control it. It just happens. And no, I don't know what that means either. She's taken to using her curse as a gift, delivering letters between the worlds. Pictured are people who work for the agency, gathered around a shard. Watch as they activate their machine. So that's the agency and their goals. The game has these visual novel sections to handle all of the story. You can encounter people resting at campfires, but the plot is more or less pretty divorced from the gameplay. You encounter dialogue in between and in the middle of shards. It's kinda clever. If an interaction needs to happen, you'll encounter them at a campfire. But if you just don't go to a campfire, you'll have the encounter in between fragments. Between that and the campfire encounters themselves, it's kinda implied that people are out here running along with you. But this isn't stated directly until the final cutscene when everyone shows up to do all that teamwork we've been doing all game. Right, guys? All those good times we had with Wraith? A lot of the world building is handled through these optional campfire interactions or through optional dialogue in the hub world. Like I said, the important encounters will be shown to you, but there's lots that aren't guaranteed if you just don't engage with them. You can run into some agency members, including the seeming head of the agency, Ava. It gets revealed that Zoe may be an echo of Ava from a different timeline, and maybe the universe has to end because it is the nature of the universe in order to maintain the loop, but maybe it doesn't have to be this way? There is something to this story. It suggests themes of predestination, identity, it's got some mega corporate satire. I really like the agency grunts that you can run into who are just along for the end of the universe, because we just work here, man. What, you expect me to walk away from this benefits package? I got a family at home. A home that will be destroyed in the coming apocalypse, but you know, I get dental here. I wanted to understand this world and how it's comprised of seemingly many worlds, with different villages and cultures where being fast, like running good, seems to be a mark of character in this world. People admire others for their running. Even old Grandma Darrow has a mystical cowl, which is the best movement tool in the game.
Oh, hi there. What you doing up there?
She was renowned in her prime for how she'd leap between the rooftops. This seems like such a cool world to get familiar with, but the gameplay doesn't really explore this much, and that gameplay seems to be the primary draw of the game, so it can hold back the bigger story ideas at times. These character interactions, by design, can't really move the plot much, because a lot of them are optional, but also because you're in the middle of a shard, or you're in the HUD world, where your goal is to go to the next shard. There's lots of opportunity for exposition, banter, character stuff, but what Zoe needs to do is run to the end of this fragment, and then the next, and so on. The writing is witty and campy and cute, but ultimately I do think the story is the weakest element of the game. I am interested in this lore, but the story, the plot is source.